Now there's one thing I failed to mention in part one. It's the sinker post teeth guard. Now, it may sound very obvious, but sometimes we tend to forget because the guard is sitting there and it blends in with the rest of the metal color and is almost like sitting in the background quietly. Then we tend to forget. So make sure you always remove the guard, which is the right here. Okay. Well, if you have one, some of you may not have one, but if you do have one, okay, remove it. Okay, just like that. And then just put it away. And now your machine is ready for knitting. We're gonna do simple cast on. So I already have the machine set up, and I have my small piece of cast on comb, and I'll be using just 40 needles on the bed because the smaller is faster, it's easier to see. And then I have a cone yarn on the back and a drop on the floor, and I'll bring the yarn up from behind the knitting table and then up, and I'll thread it through, okay, here, right there, okay, just like that, and then bring it down, okay, so just let it drape like this here. I'm not going to use a row counter because we're just doing demonstration, okay. If you need to use a row counter, you just push this one up forward, okay, have the trigger up in the front, so every time the carriage runs over, it will count each row for you. So now I'm not going to worry about that, I'll just put it in the back position, and I have the cast on comb, the small one. So now the cast on comb, you have this little wire, okay, that goes through all the teeth, and make sure the cast on comb wire is threading through all of them, okay. If you miss one of them, you're going to have drop stitches. You don't want it to happen. Now this is the back side, okay, of the comb. This is the front side. You see the little round knob here, okay. This is where you're supposed to line up in the middle piece, the middle of the knitting piece. So since I'm pulling the needles out in the center of the bed, so this one will line up with the number 0. All right, because you want to have even weight distribution to your knit piece to hang it down, to weight it down as you knit. So this comb has 2 little studs, one on each end. Okay, there's one on the left side and then one on the right side. These are the studs you hang on those sinker posts, or they call it teeth. Okay, so before you hang your cast on comb, your needles will have to be in the back position, either all the way back or in the working position. Now, because this knitting machine have 3 different positions. One is a non-working position when all the needles are sitting all the way back, and then this is the knitting position. It's just like about a fifth of the way out, but then the tip of the needles is not passing the post in the front, okay. So you can either hang it that way or have them all the way back. So when you have the needles all the way out, it's very difficult to hang. It's not impossible, it's just a lot of work. This is center, this is 0, so I kind of line them up. All right, so you can see it from here. You see right there, okay, the stud is kind of sitting between the 2 teeth. Okay, so it's the same thing on the other end. It's right there. Okay, now the cast on comb is sitting on. Okay, and I want to put this little triangular shaped wire up to allow the bracket to pass through it. So my carriage will have this setup. Okay, I want to be able to pass through. So the setup right here will allow me to loosen up the screws and allow the bracket to kind of elongate the length of the bracket a little bit. So I find it is useful for me to do the first 2 rows of cast on. Okay, once I'm done, I'm going to set them back a little bit further back, because the purpose of those single places to hold the knit piece close enough to the knitting machine so it won't have any problem. So I'll be knitting with the tension about 15, okay, over there. But when on a cast on, I want a little bit less tension, so I have it set on right now about 20. And then these 2 in the back, the cams, I'll set on both at 2, which is for just plain knitting. So okay, threaded the yarn, cone yarn on the floor. Okay, threaded the cone rod, bring the yarn over here to the carrot sitting on the right. Okay, there are 2 spots. Okay, the yarn feeder, the top section, and then the bottom section, okay? So you have to put your yarn through both of them, okay? And then 20 here, 2 and 2, okay? And right now I have these set in a knitting position. I want to make sure, okay, especially for my knitting machine, because of the brushes not working 100% of the time. So I want to make sure it will work. So I'm going to open all the latches using this cut up credit card. Is actually very effective. So you see, as I go along, it will open the latches that is closed. Okay. So far so good. Alright, so now they're all open. So make sure the latches is open. Okay, if the carriage didn't do it for you, you have to do it yourself. So okay, so now I have this. I'm going to hold on. Okay, take up a slack a little bit. Okay, hold on to the bottom of the yarn and slowly move the carriage over. Okay, and then once you start making contact with the needle, you just push it through without stopping or going backward. Okay, your carriage will always go one direction. You don't stop in the middle, you don't push it or pull it back. Okay, so it goes like this. Okay, now this is the first row of cast on. So now you see the carriage is all the way over there. It actually past the edge of the cast on comb because you need to push it past because now you have to drop the cast on comb. So if your carriage is sitting in the front, you won't be able to do so. Now, when you drop the cast on comb, you hold on to both ends, you kind of push it up with just a little bit, not too hard, because if you do, it will pop up and you will lose the stitches, okay? Okay, just carefully pop it up. Come on, okay. All right. And let it drop. Okay. Make sure the cast on comb now is sitting on the bottom of the curvature of these teeth. If it's sitting in the middle, it will be blocking your carriage for the next row. So make sure you drop it low enough, okay? And then at this point, I'm going to fix the end needles a bit by pulling on it and pushing the needles back up this way, okay? The other ends is the same thing, and tuck on it and push them back in the knitting position. Okay. And since now, because I pull on these needles when I drop the comb, I'm going to push them back just a little bit, okay, by using this. Just push them back. So as long as put the latches behind these little posts, okay. I think this is good enough. So now my first row is done. I'm going to push the carriage back from the left back to the right. Now the important thing is you have to take up the slack as you go. Because if you don't tuck on the yarn, and there will be way too much slack underneath, okay, you will create loops, okay, on these posts or the latches or the needles, and this is not what you want to happen. So I'm going to use my one hand, okay, my non-dominant hand to pick up the slack as I move the carriage over close to the first needle, the first knitting needle, okay. So as I do that, okay, so now it's approaching to the carriage is approaching the first knitting needle, but as soon as I start making contact with the first needle, I'm gonna let this yarn loose and let the yarn to feed through smoothly. Okay. Alright, so now I have 2 rows set up, okay? This is the cast on, which is done. Okay. Remember I said I have loosened these guys up. It's time for me to push them back on. If you don't have this feature, don't worry, it's not going to be a problem. Okay, you just use it as whatever your machine comes with. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten the tension back to 15. Okay, so because I won't have a tighter knit. Okay, make sure everything's still in place. Okay, the yarn's still in the feeder. So I'm going to continue to move the carriage left and right, and by taking up the slack of the yarn as it approach the first knitting needle. Okay, when it makes contact with the first needles, I'll let go. Okay, let loose, not let go, let loose, and allow the yarn to feed through. Okay, don't stop in the middle and don't try to push or pull your carriage backward. Okay, so now I have pretty good length. I can hang these claw weights. Okay, I will continue to knit left and right. At the same time, picking up the slack until your carriage makes contact with the first working needle. Okay. This is how it looks like. Okay, stockinette. You can do casting off, so to seal the seam so it will not unravel, and you can just take it off just like this, you know, as a sample piece. And I'm not going to cover how to do casting off because you can find the information online just about anywhere, how to do cast off. And then all the techniques like shaping, you know, short rowing, and that kind of things, you can find them online very easily. The most important thing is now you know how to use this machine to make stockinette. Okay, so I'm just going to take it off the easy way, the messy way. I'm just going to cut the yarn so now the carriage has no yarn threaded through it. So when I run the carriage on from one side to the other, and then the piece will fall down. So of course in this case you don't want to drop these on your toes, so remove them. Okay, so you just hold on to the cast on comb, all right, and then you run the carriage past that. Now the whole piece is out. Okay, in order to remove it from the cast on comb, you just pull on this wire, and now it's out. So it rolls up like sausages. Okay, if you block it, use steam to block it. Okay, it will be flat. Okay, it will see, you will be able to see a lot better once this is blocked. So this is how it looks like. But of course, the top it will unravel. Okay, because I didn't cast off, and this is the open cast on. So the top and the bottom will unravel. But if you want to do a closed cast on, which I'll show you how next, and so the bottom will not unravel,